could somebody please make just one person, Sergey, is this going okay? Can you hear and see myself and the presentation? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So my name is Patrick Furu, as I said. I represent the SSC network here from Hanken School of Economics and SSC. We are based in Helsinki, and the topic of this webinar, which I'm actually quite excited about, is about the leadership issues, and the basis, the foundation of what I'm going to speak about is several studies that both we have been conducting and we've been integrating other research as well. We've been conducting HR interviews with global organizations, HR directors. Then we have surveyed around 3,500 top leaders, future top leaders in different companies internationally. And then the final step, which is still ongoing, is that we have interviewed a lot of CEOs, mainly first in Finnish corporations that are international, but now also with the help of SSC Russia, with our colleagues over there, with CEOs of Russian businesses. First, it was Finnish corporations with their Russian units, but now also purely Russian. So that will be quite interesting. I'm going to share with you some of the results, some of the ideas, because then we also have worked with a number of companies on the topic of future leadership, and looked at together with executives. We've been looking at, what does leadership in practice? We can do research, but how does it work in practice? What kind of things can we see? And I think we have about 90 minutes or so for this. 2 hours altogether, but we'll see how the questions and answers session will turn out. But this is an exciting thing. I'm feeling that I'm speaking to myself, but I can see on the screen that you are following. So it's great. My Russian, as I said, is poor, and I'm a bit ashamed. You are there. Thanks. I would love to speak Russian, but I think we'll be, if you can follow my English, then we'll be fine. Yeah. Okay in Russian sounds like Oklahoma to me. So yeah. All right. Thanks for the comments. I'm watching on the screen. I have to take it a little bit this way so I can follow you. There. So, what do we know? Let's. Can I now? Yeah. All right. Let's get focused first. So before we start with me presenting things about leadership, and of course leadership is a huge topic. So, but before we start, so let's get focused. And I suppose you all are sitting down at your computers. So it's a nice, just get a nice, good sitting position. And here's your next task. Oh, yeah. Well, this is one slide before. So we need to be focused, and I know there are challenges in focusing when we are all online watching a computer screen and trying to listen and all that. But there is certain evidence. This is Daniel Goleman's recent book, just published out this week, which is about focus. And he is explaining what separates the great from the mediocre, and one of the key explanations is that people who excel are great at focusing. So let's see how you focus. This is just to get you started. So here's the task. while sitting down, lift your right leg, take your right leg and start doing circles, clockwise circles with your foot. Okay? Now, while doing that, keep on doing the circles with your foot. Try to draw the number 6 with your right finger. What happens? Are you doing it? You should. It's fun. I'm dancing in the bar. Yeah. What happens is that your leg, your foot turns the other way around. The circle is turning the other way around. And yeah, I can see your comments. And this is because of how our brain is structured. So it is possible. When you practice, you can do it. And it's you can stop now. Yes, thank you. You don't have to do it anymore. It's easier if you start drawing number 6, not from the top, but from inside, like this. Okay, but never mind. You can practice at home then afterwards. This is how our brain is structured. Our left side of the brain is commanding our right side of the body. That's how the brain works. And this is not entirely trivial, actually, in terms of leadership, because this is about how we train our minds to work as leaders. And sometimes it's painful when we develop as leaders, as human beings. Sometimes it takes a little bit of pain, really struggling to do that. But it's doable. People are basically able to change. So that's to get you focused. That's to get us started, and I would then move on. Yeah, what happened? Your feet turns the other way around. But this is a graph from our colleagues from Stockholm School of Economics, Kjell Nordström, who is basically saying that what we see today is you have the graph, you have the individual capability of learning new things. People are able to, within the, say, next 15 years, we're able to increase the amount of knowledge we can learn. But that's only minor compared to the general knowledge that is out there. So we do have a lot of knowledge produced, new knowledge, in different fields of science, in different disciplines, and it's growing exponentially. So this is a tremendous growth in new knowledge in the world as we speak. And it will only grow exponentially. So what does this mean? And that's the basic question. In practical terms, how will that change your lives? Your working lives, and also probably the personal lives, family lives. But I'm interested in, of course, what does this do to our businesses, our way of doing things, our way of leading people? What's the key challenge? I would love to have an interactive face-to-face discussion with you people on this. But let's see now. If I try to just think about that for a while. How to close the gap? Yeah, thank you. That was Mikhail. That is the challenge. Can we close the gap? What can we do about this? So if individual knowledge will remain basically at the same level, only marginal improvement, but the general knowledge will just increase hugely. Yeah, we can't know everything, especially in the future, how to close the gap. So do you think this will have an effect on our ability to lead organizations and lead people? If you replace the lower line, the individual learning, the individual capability into your business. So if the knowledge that you can produce in your business to have within your organization is increasing a little bit, but imagine that the gap will grow into what's out there. So this means that we have to find new ways of organizing things, of leading people, of managing our businesses profitably. So this is a global phenomenon. This is actually very interesting, and this is one of the key questions that we've been digging into in this study of future leadership. Now I need to look at the other file. This is a new. Oh, here it is. So what we've been doing in terms of academic study and also some executive programs is that we've been looking at, okay, what is leadership? How has it been? What does it consist of today? And I think you will have different opinions, and probably you have very good knowledge about this, especially when it comes to Russia. Now, I must admit sincerely that I'm no expert on leadership in the Russian context. So we would have to discuss, how can we adapt this into the Russian context. But I will say this, that when last week we ended this future leadership program with really smart people, international group of people. 2 of them came from Russia, one from Moscow, one from St. Petersburg. And we can see fairly similar processes, phenomena in different parts of the world. So even in Brazil, they said that, in the past, it was the boss, very authoritarian, very patriarchal way of leading, but it's changing. So in today, you have to be listening to the people, supporting them. The demands are very different. I know there's a similar change going on in Russia as well, but it, cultural context vary. But previously, in the past, we've been thinking that leadership is as the rowing team. The leader's job is to get everyone rowing, going in the same direction. And it's still, to some extent, that. However, what we see in global large organizations is this type of reality. Very different. It's sometimes chaotic. And there's a recent, from last year, an article in Harvard Business Review saying strategy as execution was the title. And one of the key points in that article was that in today's world, where we see the fastest growing really large corporations is not the places we used to see them. So in today's world, we see corporations from Argentina, Brazil, even Russia. You might have other opinions about, for instance, Gazprom. But we see Indian companies, Tata Corporation, hugely successful, growing fast. And in the article, they say one of the key common denominators, the common factors for these companies coming from the so-called, you could say, BRIC countries, emerging economies, is that they have been used to operating in somewhat chaotic circumstances. I usually take the example when I was in New Delhi last year. Just a week after I returned, the whole New Delhi region was without electricity for several days. Was it 3 days or something? And imagine, 300,000 people without electricity. So it's damn sure that companies are much more attuned to these type of conditions, that you might not have electricity suddenly. So what do you do about it? So working under the conditions, being able to operate under somewhat chaotic conditions is nowadays considered as a very good competitive advantage. And what it does in terms of leadership is of course somewhat similar. So if you can jump on, not unplanned, there's nothing that says that planning isn't good, but with certain structures, if you are able to quickly change direction, quickly jump on to new opportunities, then that will be certainly a successful characteristic. And what we see in, reality here, if you look at the picture, basically you will always have people in organizations that think that, okay, the right way is this way and somebody else is going that way, and yet another. And this is not considered necessarily a bad thing. If they are really smart people, really skilled people, saying that, okay, I think the opportunity lies here. So how to jump on these opportunities? That was a little bit of background on what is going on in the world today. Now, then if you go, that was the recent development. But if we go a little bit back to this, the very basic distinction between management on the one hand and leadership on the other hand. I think you're probably aware of this. You've heard about this distinction. Isn't that right? Let's see where my slide. So, are you still there? Just checking. So, management. Yes, good. Thanks. Management, of course, is all about planning. What's the right? I'm still dancing. Yeah, very good. Stand dancing in the bar. Okay. Sort of setting the overall direction by, planning and budgeting. We know that we have certain resources, so we need to organize those resources, make sure that people are in the right places, and then we follow up and problem solve if there are difficulties. So that's still valid, but maybe in another way, and I'm coming to that in a second. And then there's the leadership issues, setting a direction in a vision sense, that what's the purpose of being here, what's the purpose of this company, where do we want to be in the future in general terms, not saying very specific that we plan in this 3-year period we are going to do this and this, increase our market share by 2%. That's more the planning type. The leadership issues will be more in terms of, okay, we want to improve the lives of people with technology or things like that. Sort of make a meaningful purpose for business. Then it's about aligning people, making sure that they are feeling good about their position, their job, that they understand why they are in this job, and then motivating, inspiring. And this is a very basic distinction, and I added this note that it's not necessarily about personality character. It's not as this person is a manager, this person is a leader. That's not a very fruitful way to discuss this issue. Now, certainly we can see that in some people you have more management type of traits. In some persons you see more of the leadership character. But no company, and this is also John Cotter's basic point, no company can do with just one. You have to have both. And these are activities that need to be performed. So that's one of the key messages. I don't know, we can basically jump over the next slide, which is about, and my point here is mainly that this is a 100-year-old model. Okay, it didn't change. Here. Now, planning, organizing, commanding, controlling, nowadays we talk about leading, but this has been around for 100 years. This was Henri Fayol, the French guy, who wrote about this in 1914 or 1916. Frederick Winslow Taylor, you probably heard all about this, with the Ford Factory Scientific Management. So they laid down these aspects of modern management 100 years ago, and it's still alive today, but maybe they need to be reconfigured just a little bit. So what do we see? This is my colleague from London Business School, the famous Professor Julian Birkinshaw, who talks about that we need, because it's 100 years old, it's time to reinvent management. So it's time to think about alternatives, and he outlines 4 different types of 4 different dimensions. You know, what are the management models that we need to reinvent? And he talks about coordinating activities. You know, how do you get coordination, organization? How do you make decisions? What's the decision-making process? How do you motivate people? That's the leadership part. How to define objectives, the goals, goal setting in the organizations. And I'm going to I'm not really taking this very deep, but one of the points is to realize that there are what he calls the conventional, the traditional, and then the alternative. He doesn't say old is bad, new is good, traditional is bad, or alternative is good. It's just that if we have to rethink how to close you remember the gap. If we need to close the gap and find new ways of organizing, new ways of managing the business, then we need to have some dimensions, we need to have some tools to understand where we need to change. And this is what Julian is saying. So he talks about the traditional coordination mechanism as a bureaucracy. You have the ways in which you organize activities, coordinate activities by saying that, okay, this person, this department does this, and then it moves to the next department. And it's sort of based on Max Weber's the classic bureaucratic mechanisms. The coordination is done through the system, through the bureaucracy. And there are good sides to that, but in today's world where there's a huge change going on, we need some more emergent mechanisms. And what does emergence mean? It means that basically that we don't know in advance what will work, so we have to try different things. And many times, I think we can take care of it. There's a question about this material, the presentation. Many times there are smart, and this is the thing, we are working with knowledge. We have smart people that know things, that work in the field. They are out there. know the customers, know the technologies, and sometimes the coordination is done through the emergence of smart people being out there. The second, I'm speeding up a little bit. The second is about making decisions, and with bureaucracy you have hierarchy. Those go quite well together. So hierarchy, you go to the top for decisions. Well, it turns out, and this is the particularly important, if you remember the gap, the individual knowledge and the collective knowledge that is out there. The gap is increasing as we speak. So therefore, to tap into the collective wisdom proves sometimes or many times as a very powerful way of making decisions. And you have probably heard many times about crowdsourcing, crowd funding, crowd this and that. This crowd thing is a part of collective wisdom, collective intelligence. You've heard about the Linux operating system, which is my battery is running out there. The Linux operating system, which is basically done by people spread around the world, coming together and doing bits of coding there, here and there. We know that the consultancy, Deloitte, this big multinational management consultancy, they actually nowadays are engaged in this crowdsourcing when they get a project, and this they learned from a competitor. When they get a project, what they will often do, almost always, is to seek solutions through the world, throughout the globe, by these, because they have the technology to get this crowd in, the knowledge, the wisdom of the crowds. So that is coming up. So because the wisdom is very seldom at the top of the organizations. The true knowledge is not even in the organization. So how do you get the true knowledge that is all over the place inside the organization? And that's a very fundamental question. And decision-making mechanisms need to change in this way. How to incorporate. You don't have to make every decision based on all the knowledge there is, the collective wisdom. But sometimes you have to find the balance. In each of these dimensions, you need to find the balance. Then extrinsic rewards, motivating people. We see that people are, this already in the 50s, Douglas McGregor with the theory X and theory Y showed that people are more motivated by intrinsic rewards than extrinsic rewards. Intrinsic rewards is you get new challenges, you have opportunities to realize your dreams and all this. The Maslow's hierarchy, the top level. Whereas corporations today still, what do we see? We see, how much pay do you get, how much bonus, how much stock options, etc., etc. I know that there are cultural variations. I just spoke yesterday with a Chinese manager, top executive, who said that, well, here in our country, it's still the way that if any employee gets, he said first that any employee gets a higher offer from another company, they will leave. There's nothing they can do. Then we discussed a while, and then he said, well, actually, this is changing. Some of the employees are not really anymore interested only about getting a little bit higher salary. And this would be an interesting topic to discuss, because what I've heard and learned from the Russian context, you still have the job hopping thing, that you get a higher offer somewhere else, you leave because it's a better offer, money wise. I think you also are quite open to the other factors, the more intrinsic, or the job, so not job security, but if it's close to your home, you don't have to travel for 2 hours back and forth, making 4 hours a day just traveling to the office. All these type of things matter as well, not only the salary. But this is culturally somewhat dependent. And then the last one is actually an interesting one. Traditionally, we've defined objectives, goals, so that you have a top goal. The top level goal for the corporation is to, profitable growth. Then you split it down to more manageable units, and these should all be aligned. Then the funny word obliquity that you see in the bottom right corner is something, and I think the best way to describe it is if you know, what do you call this, bow shooting, archery, I think it's in English, where you have this type of bow, and then you aim at the target. Thing is, if you aim right at the target, you won't arrive. It goes below. But you have to, with that technique, you have to aim just a little bit higher, so that then you will hit bullseye. And that's called obliquity. So it's not a straight line in today's world. And if you think about happiness, here Julian Birkinshaw took the example of happiness. If you want to pursue happiness, this was actually Viktor Frankl, the one guy who survived the concentration camp, the Holocaust, the Second World War. And he said that happiness is something that you cannot pursue as a goal, as such. Happiness is something that ensues as a consequence of your actions. Okay. So, and if you think that climbing the Mount Everest is something that makes you happy, it's probably only afterwards that you are happy, that you did it. However, if you are on your way climbing to Mount Everest, you probably will suffer because there's no oxygen. You have to be in awkward positions. It's cold. It's miserable. You don't get good food, no good drinks, no bars, no dancing. So it might be that while you're doing the activity, you don't feel that happy. But afterwards, that's when the happiness comes. So that's obliquity. So if you aim for a goal, you should, go around it. And we see a lot of the examples like this in the business world. The easiest one is, if you aim at a certain level, you might get a lower performance. You aim higher, you will get the performance you are really hoping for. That's quite natural. All right, so I recommend you read Julian's Reinventing Management. There's one book called Reinventing Management, a bestseller, but there's also an article that is only about 8 pages. He will explain these ideas better. But the main point is that we need 100 years of management history, models, ways of working. Still, we use much of the same models. So it's time to reinvent, to rethink the management and the leadership. And now I'm going to more into the leadership part. Wrong one. And this is one of my groups, really smart people that were last year, half a year, they thought about, what is this leadership? Where has it gone? Where is it going? Or sorry, where is it now? Where is it going? And they, in a sense, this is my graphical illustration of what they thought, what they came up with. And I think this makes a lot of sense. So traditionally, it's been that, and 100 years ago, this was perfectly true, perfectly workable, that the boss, the top leader, could just dictate, okay, guys, this is where we're going. So there's the goal. Just go out and do it. And sort of more or less commanded people to move in that direction. And it worked. You could specialize. That's a long story. But this was sort of the leader's job. And it was a successful job. But then, after a while, you had people, because the first idea, the traditional leadership method, sort of works when you have uneducated people, where you have fairly simple tasks, fairly stable environment, so you pretty much can plan and organize staff and so forth. Okay. Sorry. So, yeah, you will get it. So the second step, when people were more educated, we got more than just factories, we got service business, we got all sorts of new ideas. Then it turned. So from sort of the leader not anymore standing in the back, controlling that everybody is doing their job, it was more like the leader is getting in the front line and then starting to lead by setting the showing example, basically. So that's the second wave. So and you see the markets, the customers, whatever the organization is supposed to focus on. So it was a rather big change. It didn't happen like this and in every organization at the same time, but we see sort of an evolution. But today, and particularly tomorrow, we will see leadership more as a support function, holding people up so that the people can do their job and succeed together as an organization. And that is, I think, we can see this in many places, but I have two sports coaches, and I know now I'm touching a very, I don't know what hot topic, but Russia has been really succeeding in volleyball. I congratulate you. Really, really good. So you won the Olympics, you won if I'm not mistaken, you won Olympics and the World League just recently. Last year, London, now this year, World League. So arguably, and European Championship, arguably Russia is the best volleyball team in the world at the moment. However, there's one team that is coming quite fast, running behind, and that's now the Italian team, with the help of Mauro Berruto, who's the head coach, and he has this type of supporting leadership. The players may not be as good as the Russian players, but he can make the team work. And his whole idea is based on the fact that you have to let the people, the team players, the organization, to shine. Make the best organization so that they have a possibility to shine. Mauro Berruto was the head coach of the Finnish team from 2004 to 2011, I think, or something like that. And he could make a rather lousy volleyball team into a top team on the international level. They're still not as good as Russia, but sort of considering that you have not so good players, he could make them shine. He could really support the team. Now, Henrik Detman is another. He's a German coach that coached the Finnish basketball team. And he has as a philosophy to make people shine. So, obviously, you see a lot of examples, but very clearly in this sports, the sports business, and the sports field, you can see leadership that is truly trying to make people show their best, and this is in terms of leadership now very, very important. Now I think we need to get a little bit of interaction, and how I thought, if this is successful, how I thought we'd do it is through some statements, and I would like you to just spend not many, like 10 seconds or 20 seconds on looking at that, and then telling me. You can write your answers. What you will see on the following slide, 4 statements, and I would like you to write which one of these arguments you agree with. So, are you ready? So, first 4 arguments, and you can just write the number that you think, okay, this is correct. There might be several. You can write all the numbers if you wish. But let's see. Let's try with the first one. So here, how do you motivate employees? So you have annual performance reviews where you give feedback and agree on clear targets, and the clear targets motivate people to perform. So that's one motivation. Stretch targets. So you pose very demanding targets, and they will be motivating. Or number 3, you pay people to perform better. So if they get better performance, they will get more paid. That will be a motivator. And then 4th, you make people understand the vision, the purpose of the company, and that will be a motivating factor. Okay, 2 and 4, 2 and 4, 1 and 4. Very good. You were catching on. So Russia is really doing well. And this is, of course, not the whole truth, not the final truth. So help you God. The first one, and this has been shown, that the trick here, there are trick questions here. So the trick here is that annual reviews is not enough. In today's world, you have the younger generation, especially, that hunger for feedback. They want to know how good they are doing. If they get feedback once a year, it's they're gone. But clear targets will certainly be a good motivator still today. So you have something to aim for. It's easier to perform. Stretch targets. There are sort of different evidence, but it's sort of there. So you have challenging targets for most people in sort of knowledge-based business. If you are educated and so forth, that will be a motivating factor. Paying people for performance, actually wrong, and there are studies. I mean, in some studies you might see that. But I'm not going into detail, but there are studies showing that actually if you pay individuals for good performance or better performance, then you will have a negative effect on the organizational, the motivation and the performance. But if you want, I can provide you with some more readings on this. It's quite interesting results. Then the second, let's see how many we do have here. Second question. I think you got the idea already, so we can probably jump ahead soon. But what do you say? The main goal of the corporation, this comes from the Western sort of shareholder value thinking. But is the main goal of the corporation to satisfy the needs of the customers, or satisfy the need of the shareholders, or satisfy the needs of the employees? What is physical punishment? No. Okay. Yeah. Number two. Mikhail, very good. Very good. And this I have to explain. One and two. Yeah, I have to explain this. So actually there's evidence, not George Martin, what's his name? Roger Martin from the Rothman School in Canada has been showing that, I'll put the next slide on, that there's data indicating clearly that companies that explicitly try to maximize shareholder value actually end up performing worse than those who are not explicitly going to shareholder value. And this is a case where you see the obliquity, the oblique goals working. I agree that the ultimate goal on some level of the corporation, of a company, is to provide value for the shareholders. But you can't directly address that. And that's the key here. So it's sort of right, but then again, a little bit misleading if you aim directly at shareholder value. So, but there is evidence that if you put the customers first or you put the employees first, actually there's more evidence of if you actually put the employees first, they will produce value for the customer, and which will end up in bigger shareholder value. So a little bit of trick question here. I think we can. I'm conscious of our time. Looking here, we could jump because I have some evidence of these future leadership studies. Oh, okay. Sorry about jumping. Let's do this. Even more. So, salespeople. We talked about monetary incentives before, but now we're talking about sales guys. So you pay more to the sales guys, they will perform better. Yes or no? Igor, yes. Very good. Okay, we got two. So, you might be right. But there's actually quite a lot of evidence on counterintuitively. I know this sounds weird. How can that be? But there are companies who have eliminated sales commissions from individuals and then paying for good overall result, and that has increased the performance of the whole organization. This is a far trickier question, far more complicated question than this yes or no, obviously. But I'm trying to get you sort of just thinking that maybe there might be another way. So maybe the current way of doing things could be reinvented, reconfigured. And the question of it depends on the type of business, yes. But the logic here is that organizational performance is a joint effort. And the evidence that I'm referring to here is that if you focus too much on the individuals and their performance, you will have a negative effect on the overall performance. Because then sales guys are, I'm generalizing, stereotypical, but sales guys are very interested in, how much do they get paid? So instead of thinking about what's good for the company, they are trying to optimize their own performance and pay. So do you think, or if you understand, they are trying to play the game to maximize their own pay. And that's not good for the business. So that's the logic behind this. Why would sales commissions be bad for performance? But obviously you are right. This could be the case. Now, I'm looking at, here we have the slide. There's a huge amount of text in here. This is just because when I introduced myself, I told you about the research project that we have been carrying out with, and I'm not going to explain all this. But you see the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase, and the third phase is now rolled on into interviews with CEOs or in different countries. So this is the body of knowledge that I'm speaking about, that I'm drawing on. And you see a bunch of material, a bunch of names of companies and so forth. I might have to leave out from the presentation that you get some information. But basically, I'm basing my comments on this data, on this knowledge that we have received. Where are we now? Is it going forward? Yeah. So just to simplify, we have I have two screens here, so I need to. Yeah. So in these different phases, first we looked at, I already explained this, but first we looked at the HR directors, then the talents, future top leaders, and then the CEOs. And more or less we asked the same questions from all these three parts. What's currently important in terms of leadership development? How do you develop leaders? What will be the defining factor in future? What will future leaders look like? What's important? So if I'm going to summarize this very, very quickly, so no big study reporting here. But basically, I'm clicking the wrong screen here. What the HR director said, first, one of the findings of this study was that we see more and more of this kind of T-shaped leader. So what does that mean? T-shaped leader basically means that you have to have broad knowledge of business, of the business environment, industry, the company, different functions. So broad general understanding. But then you have to have some deep level of the content expertise. And this is, by the way, if you know McKinsey, the big consultancy, this is how McKinsey has organized themselves globally. So they have, every consultant needs to be have a broad understanding general understanding or from different businesses. So that's why how they train people. They move them around so that they get the basic level of understanding, very broad business-based knowledge. But then they specialize in some fields. It might be some industries, it might be some technologies, it might be some different skills as consultants. But some deep level of knowledge, and this is how they organize themselves. So this is coming into leadership, say these global international HR directors. Then the second thing that, what did these people identify as key characteristics of future leaders? All agreed that communication will be very, very important, a defining factor. Then, it's all about sharing, not hiding, not keeping information to yourself, but very much, if you remember the three phases of leadership, if the leader's task is to support the organization, make them shine, let them have opportunities to perform well, then the leader's job is to really share information from left to right, up, down, across the organization, externally, combining information, because the amount of knowledge will increase exponentially. So the leader's job is to be also an interpreter of all the information, all the knowledge that is out there, and try, with the help of others, try to synthesize, simplify, okay, what is important for us now, here, and tomorrow. And also encourage everyone else to communicate as well. Then analytic can understand this information, the data, as I said, the huge information flow. Then something that the HR directors, and this is another thing that I would really like to discuss with you face to face, would be how you see the issue of work-life balance. Because we see really large organizations and their HR people say that the work-life balance and a more meaningful job will be more important than, or is already today, more important than status and the pay. And this would be an interesting issue to study in different countries, such as Russia. Do you see the same thing? Do you feel yourself, when you're now listening, do you see life balance and meaningful job being more important than your status and your pay? That's an open question, actually. Because this was also debated then I've debated this with different executives. And not everyone agrees. No comments yet. We'll leave that for later. In the bar then, afterwards. The best case is to combine status and salary, and yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, this is what the HR directors have been saying. And as we will see, they're probably the only ones who are bringing this particular topic up in terms of what is defining in terms of future leadership.